All right, tonight's topic is embracing the Baldrige Framework as a professional development opportunity. QualityBob is a 37-year member leader with an ASQ and a retiree from 3M Company with 34 years of industrial experience in product development, process development, quality assurance, SPC, TQM, Lean, Six Sigma, leadership development, and strategic planning and deployment. Bob served as division quality manager for 3 different 3M business units in healthcare, consumer, and industrial markets, as well as the 3M corporate quality senior manager. Bob has served on numerous ASQ committees and held leadership positions in the ASQ Statistics Division, ASQ Minnesota section, and ASQ Phoenix section. Bob is an experienced ISO 9000 series lead auditor, a state Baldrige Examiner from Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Arizona, Nevada, and Utah, and is a fellow in ASQ with CQA, CQE, and CQM professional certifications. And on a side note, Bob is actually teaching and we've retitled this, a CQE body of knowledge training course this September up until December for the ASQ Phoenix section. And there will be more to come on that later. So please stay tuned following his program as we discuss that a little bit more. All right, Bob, I'll actually make you co-host. I had forgotten to do, or actually you are co-host already, but I will hand the floor over to you.
Okay, take control. And does everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you, Hillary, for inviting me to present tonight to this austere body. And it's my pleasure to not only be a continuing active volunteer within ASQ, but also now serving as the executive director for the Southwest Alliance for Excellence. We are the local affiliate of 29 different Baldrige organizations that help communities and other organizations to pursue excellence, to deliver transformational results, and to deliver societal contributions. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about what is the Baldrige Framework, who is SWAY, and then finish up with a couple calls to action, such as signing up for examiner training or, as Hillary mentioned, the CQE body of knowledge class that's coming up a little later in the year. So for people who may not be aware of who is SWAY, what are we, what do we do? We are very similar to ASQ. And in fact, ASQ and the entire Baldrige community really are joined at the hip, as you'll see in the next future slides coming up. They both help administer the Baldrige criteria and the Baldrige framework. So SWAY, as the local entity, we offer state quality awards to organizations and communities in Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. So I thought I'd just show a comparison of ASQ, especially the Phoenix section, and to SWAY. So like ASQ, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. That means we accept charitable donations, which are tax deductible to the donator. We are both volunteer-led by professionals, whereas ASQ has 231 sections and 23 divisions. The Baldrige Alliance has 29 Baldrige organizations, and between the 29 of us, we serve all 50 states. So we administer the Baldrige Framework to help organizations to achieve performance excellence across all 50 states. And in fact, the Baldrige Framework has been adopted by many countries outside of the United States. There are countries that have their own. I'm sure many of you have heard of Japan's Deming Prize. There's also, Europe has their performance excellence model called ENQP. And there are other countries that have their own as well, but many countries have adopted the Baldrige format. Whereas ASQ, we kind of focus on continuous improvement and excellence, but speaking more to the continuous improvement and quality community, and we focus on improving processes, products, and services. The Baldrige organizations, we focus on organizational performance and innovation. Again, focused on systems and processes that help organizations and communities to improve holistically. The main products or tools that the ASQ focuses in on and delivers training to would be the ISO quality management systems. Of course, they use the PDCA, Total Quality, Lean, Six Sigma, and many other quality tools and methods, serving needs from product design and development through commercialization, customer satisfaction, service industries, that whole scheme. Whereas in SWAY and the Baldrige organizations, again, we have adopted the Baldrige framework, and we also incorporate PDCA and proven best practices from what are called role model companies. These are companies who have applied for and won the National Baldrige Award. And being recognized as a role model, it means that they in turn have to share their best practices. So there are some organizations that have best practices and strengths in some areas, and other organizations have best practices in other areas. But each of them has enough pretty good practices / best practices that as an organization, they are perceived as being amongst the very best. ASQ focuses on measurement and analysis. The Baldrige criteria also focuses on measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. The main audience within ASQ is traditionally the quality professionals / continuous improvement professionals. For those people who don't have the word quality in their title, but what they do is continuously improve operations. But they are focused on that level, and which includes quality managers as well. The main audience for the Baldrige organizations is the executive suite. That's our sweet spot. That's who we approached, because to drive organizational excellence, it's much more difficult if you don't have the individual or individuals at the top of the organization participating and really driving that performance journey. Here in ASQ Phoenix, we have monthly development meetings that we call program meetings. In SWAY, we also have monthly meetings. They're called Third Thursday webinars for an obvious reason. They're always the third Thursday. But whereas these ASQ Phoenix monthly programs are on the second Thursday in the evening, these third Thursday webinars are in the morning on the third Thursday. Currently, they start at like 8 a.m. in the morning here in Phoenix. And depending upon which time zone you're in and whether we're recognizing daylight savings or standard time, those times can change. Whereas we know here in Arizona, they do not. We do not observe daylight savings time. We too offer short courses, webinars. ASQ, we like to offer plant tours. Not necessarily tours, but we showcase processes and role model organizations where we'll bring some of these role models and have them present either in person or at a conference or remotely. And we'll spend one event talking about a particular category of the Baldrige. ASQ offers professional certifications. Similarly, we offer examiner training in which you are trained by professionals in the Baldrige framework, and then you participate on assessment teams to help organizations on their journey towards excellence. We provide a feedback report which has their strengths, but then also the opportunities for improvement. And once you've been trained and recognized as a Baldrige Examiner, potentially you could move in to be a Baldrige coach or even a judge on some of these assessment teams. ASQ offers testimonials and awards. SWAY offers awards. In fact, we recognize excellence at 4 different levels of progress, and that's intentional so we can help motivate continued improvement. It's not just a one-time project. It's really a journey, and it can take organizations a number of years, 4 to 5 years, to progress from the beginning level to what's known as the achievement of sustainable excellence. So it truly is a journey. ASQ has a society-wide conference. All the Baldrige organizations, we also have a national conference called the Malcolm Baldrige Award. And we have conferences in the fall called the Baldrige Conference. And we have the Quest Conference in the spring. So very similar in design and makeup and deliverables. The big difference is who we are targeting as our primary audience. So why do organizations choose to pursue performance excellence, and why do we, the Baldrige Alliance organizations, really promote Baldrige? It's really all about helping organizations and communities to get from their area they're experiencing pain to their happy place. We like to call that getting from Pain Island with all the challenges you have to the happy island. And where we come into play is we provide the framework or the vehicle by which your organization can move from that pain island to the happy island. And we do that by way of self-assessments and coaching. One of the key deliverables that an organization has to develop to pursue this journey is a profile, a snapshot of who they are. And we'll get into a little bit more about that definition of what's in a profile. And then they talk about their key processes and what have their results been. And then we come in with these examiners who have been professionally trained, and we conduct assessments. Kind of like ASQ with audits, but these are not audits. Audits are kind of determining whether you are compliant to the minimum requirements. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Whereas assessments, first of all, we are invited in to come and do assessments because organizations want to improve, and they're looking for validation from our trained experts who don't work within the company but know the criteria, and then we can help those organizations assess. These are your strengths. You want to continue building on that, honor your strengths. And these are your opportunities of how to get to that next level of performance. And that's in that all-important feedback report. And then as a result of all that, one of the key criteria coming out of Baldrige is that you become a learning organization. And it's very intentional, very systematic. It's not by happenstance. It's not, well, we're doing things differently because someone somewhere had a great idea. This is truly talking about systematic, intentional improvements. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the Baldrige program itself. And I've got a little bit of a little quiz to help keep you engaged and entertained. And to the person who gets the most points, you will win a free copy of the Baldrige booklet. So why do we chase excellence? Well, because perfection's not attainable, but as Coach Vince Lombardi says, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. And that's really what it's all about. We're not necessarily trying to be perfect in every way, but if we can attain excellence, we will be a more sustainable, resilient organization delivering value for our customers and stakeholders, our community citizens, really improving the quality of life. So how do we contrast and compare continuous improvement versus excellence? What I'm showing here in the next couple slides are copy-paste snippets from the Baldrige criteria itself. So, learning about cause and effect and root cause analysis, that's how you start your journey of learning, where you're learning how to react to problems. You're going to put out a fire, right? But it should be more than just responding with corrective action for an event that occurred. You want to get to the point where you're now responding to prevent future occurrence. And that's what's called steps 2 and 3 in this excellence journey. And certainly continuous improvement activities cover this scheme, this range of evaluation and improvement as well. But where the distinction between continuous improvement and excellence really begins to take hold is not only replicating best practices throughout your organization, but also having an organizational learning and innovation where it's really, again, systematized. You've got an approach to how you do innovation. You've got systematic approaches to learning, and you know how to take that learning and replicate it throughout your organization. And it's through that learning organizations can hope to achieve excellence. Learning from best practices within and learning from best practices wherever they may be, even if it's in a different sector of the economy. Maybe you have a need to improve your supply chain reliability and you're in manufacturing, but maybe the best case example is someone over in the service or retail industry, thinking in terms of maybe Amazon or USPS. So truly to learn, if you want to be the best, you've got to compare yourself against the best. So I like to put this slide together just to show, how do these improvement methodologies work together in harmony, but yet how are they different? Many organizations are pursuing lean. As we know, lean is really all about learning to see where are the piles of waste, where are the buckets of inventory that are just dollars that are sitting there, and they're not helping to improve your efficiencies. So lean is all about eliminating waste, eliminating non-value added activity, and creating a customer-first mindset, a culture of accountability, whereas a pretty popular tagline amongst organizations who have adopted a lean culture is we want to be an organization where everyone is a problem solver, from the CEO down to the person who's maintaining the facilities and in maintenance and repair. Everybody is a problem solver. And we develop this culture of accountability where if you see a problem, you own the problem. Now, you may not be able to fix it, but because you own it, you're going to make sure the people who can bring the necessary powers to be are involved, and you kind of run roughshod, and it's your responsibility since you saw the problem. That's really what a whole culture of lean is all about, where everybody in the organization is involved. Six Sigma is a little different in that it's has much more statistical rigor, and you use Six Sigma just to solve complex problems. You wouldn't use Six Sigma to go in and solve a problem where the solution is already known. You're going to try and solve a problem. You're going to try and prevent a problem that seems to be recurring. Every 3 years we fix it, and every 3 to 4 years it comes back. Well, how do we permanently fix it? And Six Sigma is all focused on eliminating defects, whether that's through variation reduction, or because after the result of Lean Six Sigma, you know so much about your process and your products and your inputs that you now have the ability to shift that process mean. Maybe your process is now not centered in the specifications or the customer requirements. And as a result, you have some tails of the distribution that fail. Some testing, you've got to do some retesting, you may have to do some rework. But aside from widening the specs, I mean, those specs should be coming from the customer. That's not the practical approach. How do you reduce that variation, and how do you shift that mean within those tolerance levels? And that's really what Six Sigma is all about. And as a result of Six Sigma, you're going to have process improvement and enjoy cost reductions. The limitation of Six Sigma is it requires rigorous statistical data analysis, or BELTs. And it's estimated that in order to have a successful Six Sigma program within your organization, you'll have maybe 1 to 2% of the workforce who are green belts or black belts. Not everybody needs to be trained as a green belt or a black belt, whereas lean is everybody's responsibility. So that takes care of the other 99%. So between lean and Six Sigma, you have everybody engaged in customer-focused continuous improvement. And that's the beauty of the Lean Six Sigma methodology, is now we're training people in a little bit of each of those. Of course, we have ISO. ISO is an example of a quality management system. In many organizations, especially in manufacturing and in regulated industries, you have to have an ISO compliant system before you can even go to market. It really does establish what are the minimum expectations to participate in that marketplace. ISO can be very prescriptive. For example, even in the 9001, the quote unquote basic quality system, there are 368 shall statements. For every shall, you can just interpret that to be you must do or must have. So it's very compliance focused, and the rigor comes in when we have third-party auditors coming in and assessing your organization against what you say you do, which would be your quality manual, your quality procedures, and your records and documents. But then they also take it one step further, say, well, but now is your quality system compliant to the quality management system, the ISO standard itself? So there's compliance on two levels. Okay, and if you're in a regulated industry, you're even going to have more rigor involved, because as a regulated industry, you're going to have people come in, maybe the FDA or someone from the aerospace market is going to come in, or automotive is going to come in and survey your performance as well. So the basic quality standards really focus on fixing quality system defects and where you have product or service nonconformities. So it's all about compliance and maintaining the basic minimum requirements. Where Baldrige comes in is it now takes a step up, quite a big step up. It's not just focused on compliance and being average or the best of the average. It's really focused on driving organizational performance excellence using these demonstrated best practices that we witness as part of what role model companies are using. So it's very much about learn best practices, try to adapt and adopt it into your organization. But the frustration comes in within the Baldrige framework is that it is non-prescriptive. On one hand, that's great because you're not being told what you have to do. The Baldrige says very little about what, but the question is how. So how are you going to achieve those best practices or those framework questions? How are you going to deliver it? And it's up to the organization to determine what works best for them, depending upon their culture, their market, their leadership design. And what the Baldrige does, though, it comes in and it provides some very important questions for checking your key processes, whether they're leadership or their planning processes, your strategic planning, your operational planning, your operational effectiveness, your workforce. How are you sure you have the right workforce? What are your core competencies that your workforce needs to have? How do you plan ahead for growth, to looking at your capability and capacity amongst your workforce? So these are questions that you're asked. You're not given the solution, but these questions come from these role model companies. And it's all about being able to sustain that level of performance over time. And the criteria itself changes over time. So in order to really pursue excellence, you have to learn to become a learning organization. A quote by Alvin Toffler, a futurist, has stated that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So that's the magic of becoming a learning organization. And Baldrige really helps to facilitate that, because we're learning from best practices of role companies or role models. And then as a community, we bring organizations together who may share some of the same problems or challenges, and we can talk amongst those cohorts as far as, well, what are some possible solutions you're pursuing? What are the strengths and disadvantages of those potential solutions? So really excellence then is achieved when you can build this culture of learning. Success today does not guarantee success tomorrow. The success of your organization depends on its ability to become a learning organization. So how do you do that? How do you become a learning organization? Well, you have to, first of all, start with a mission and a vision. You know, what does your organization stand for? Why does it exist? So another way of looking at it is Simon Sinek, a very popular humanist, has a video series, has written a number of books, but one of his books talks about the golden circles. So you drill down to why. What is your why? Why do you exist? How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? You know, so focus on your mission, your vision, your why. And another key to becoming a learning organization is to define success, which can be a challenge because if you equate your business, a lot of people like to equate a business to a sporting event. Okay, they're sporting events, you're always pursuing excellence. The difficulty with that analogy, though, is within a sporting event, it's very time bound. You've got a start point and you've got an end point to every game, every competition. So you know what the end point is, and it's very easy then to set some goals and objectives. But hopefully, as an organization, you plan to stick around for a while. You know, 3M company has been around for over 120 years now. And it's not easy to remain in the Dow Jones Industrial, the Dow 30, over that length of time. So you've got to be able to define success, and you're aiming high. You may have heard of the phrase that was coined many years ago called the BHAG, or you want to have a goal that's big, hairy, and audacious. Big, hairy, audacious goal. A goal that's so compelling and it has enough long term to it that it helps to inspire everybody within the organization. So it's inspirational and aspirational. So I'm tying into that, I've got a video that I want to share with you from John F. Kennedy, way back when he was introducing the space program. Hopefully the sound works.
In an hour of change.
Is everybody hearing this?
In a decade of both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
In an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come. But condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of but a half a century. In these terms, we know very little about the first 40 years, except at the end of them, advanced man had learned to use the skins of animals to cover them. Then about 10 years ago, under this standard, man emerged from his caves to construct other kinds of shelter. Only 5 years ago, man learned to write and use a cart with wheels. Christianity began less than 2 years ago. The printing press came this year. And then less than 2 months ago, during this whole 50-year span of human history, the steam engine provided a new source of power. Newton explored the meaning of gravity. Last month, electric lights and telephones and automobiles and airplanes became available. Only last week did we develop penicillin and television and nuclear power. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer, to rest, to wait. If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. We shall send to the moon, 240,000 miles away, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall on an untried mission to to an unknown celestial body and then return it safely to Earth. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked.
So why pursue excellence? Well, it provides a big, hairy, audacious goal for organizations. You don't want to be just part of the pack. You want to stand out. You want to be able to deliver a distinct competitive advantage. When Kennedy made this announcement, it was well before we had launched the Gemini and Apollo. In fact, at the time that Kennedy made this announcement, the most that the U.S. had accomplished at that point was to send a man up and come back down safely. Not even orbited the Earth. It was a suborbital flight. We had just successfully sent someone up into space and then back down. And this whole program had an 8-year horizon. They had to map out every milestone, every key project along the way. But by doing that, we actually landed the first men on the moon 4 months ahead of time. I believe it was 4, it might have been 5 months ahead of time, but there was an 8-year per horizon, and we were able to accomplish that big, hairy, audacious goal because everyone was part of the team effort. Everybody was aligned, everybody knew their role, and they kept measuring themselves against some standards and best practices. So it was just awesome to think that we did it in less than 8 years, and we set this plan, we set this goal before we had even sent the first person into orbit. So they laid out the Mercury program with 1 astronaut, the Gemini program with 2 astronauts, the Apollo with 3 astronauts, because they figured in order to get someone to the moon, orbit, send a lander down and back up, it would take a minimum crew of 3 people to do that. And to imagine the little computer power that was available at that time, it's just amazing to think of that. So you want to define your mission, your vision, your goals. You want to aim high, determine your most important numbers as the next big step. And I'm going to show another video. Many people who are baseball lovers can probably tell where this clip comes from. But as an organization, we need to know how to define success. What are going to be our most important numbers? Yeah, we can measure a lot of things, but you want to be careful and only measure what's truly going to help you achieve. So what are the most important numbers? You want to identify, your numbers, and you want to set a goal. But in order to become a learning organization and in order to achieve excellence, you've got to have some meaningful comparisons. Because if your vision, for example, says you want to be the best in something or the preferred organization or company, but yet you're comparing your progress to the industry average, well, that comparison is not going to help you to stay aligned to how you define success. You got to identify what are the most important numbers. Is it signing baseball players, or is it scoring more runs? What are the important numbers? And then have comparisons to help motivate continued progress towards that goal. And you need to have an intentional focus on continuous improvement, along with systematically identified key processes that need improvement. You don't have enough resources to work on everything, but what are those key processes that are going to have the biggest impact in helping you to achieve your goal? And then finally, you need to integrate the best practice approaches and to have systematic and deployed learning throughout your organization. So the whole purpose of having comparative data, and this is a key point in the Baldrige framework, is when we go to evaluate your results, what are your comparisons? And we tie it back to whatever your organization's mission and vision are. If your vision says you want to be best in class, then you better have some comparatives that will help get you there. Comparing yourself against the 50% or even maybe the third quartile really isn't going to help you to achieve your goal. You want to be able to measure at least to the fourth quartile, if not maybe the top 10%. So that becomes a very difficult undertaking, is to find, well, for any one of my given key processes, how do I find these best in case comparatives? What you have to be cognizant of is some of those best in class comparatives are outside your industry. They're outside your sector completely. And that's, again, another value of bringing the Baldrige, because we have resources from best practice role model companies from all across the economy of the United States. So cycles of learning is really key to becoming a sustainable, performing, excellent organization. So just an example of, if you truly become a learning organization, here's this example of the benefits you can see. If you have an unadaptive culture, one where you're not really learning, it's not systematic learning, you're not deploying those key learnings everywhere, compare the revenue, stock price, workforce, and net income growth to an organization that has this adaptive culture. They're systematically observing best practices and comparing their operations. They're taking best practices and adopting them and adapting them to their culture. And then they're continuously reviewing their performance and looking for some additional opportunities for improvement. The nice thing about the Baldrige framework, it has criteria. People use the two words interchangeably, whether it's the framework or the criteria. The Baldrige provides those questions to help you and your leadership team to make your key processes visible so that you can analyze, standardize, align, and improve them. So there's some examples here of questions that come straight from the Baldrige criteria. How do your senior leaders create an environment for success now and in the future? Notice it does not give you a how. That's what you have to figure out. But we're asking the question, have you considered how your senior leaders create this environment? How do you identify strategic opportunities and stimulate innovation? How do you listen to, interact with, and observe customers? How do you measure, analyze, review, and improve operations and performance? How do you organize and manage your workforce? How do you foster this culture of high performance? How do you design your products, services, and work processes to meet and exceed requirements? So here's where the poll comes in. I'm going to see how much you already know about the Baldrige program. It's fun little 4 or 5 question survey. So you can either you're watching this. The idea is you're watching this presentation on your laptop and you have your smartphone available. You can answer the poll questions on your smartphone. If you only have a smartphone, it's a little more challenging. You have to be able to maybe switch browsers or switch to a new tab, but you can scan this QR code with your smartphone camera and it'll bring up the poll. The poll is open, so again, and at the top of every screen, it'll have the same address, so you don't have to worry. But we're going to try and capture your feedback to these poll questions. Just something a little fun. And the way that the scoring will take place is you first have to have the correct answer, but then if you do have the correct answer, that person who answers in the shortest amount of time gets more points. So the faster you can correctly answer, the better. Kind of like those games you can play in the bars. Not that I ever frequent a bar. So again, here's the website with the poll. And what year was the Baldrige program established is the first question. Now, when I hit the enter key on my keyboard, it will pop up the potential or the alternative answers, and it's your opportunity then to select what you believe is the best answer as fast as you can. Is everybody ready? Okay, here we go. What year was the Baldrige program established? You've got 30 seconds to answer each of these questions. And you'll notice there's a little trash can. So if you change your mind, if you answered it, you can go back and change it. If you've thought about it some more, let's see. So was Baldrige established in 1997, 2007, 1987, or 2017? And the poll is closed. So now we can look to see what the feedback is. So 80% of the participants got the right answer. It was created in 1987 under Ronald Reagan's administration. And that date sticks in my mind because I was an internal examiner within 3M Company when Dental Products won the National Baldrige Award in 1997. But the program itself was established in 1987. And we'll talk more about why and what was its intent and how does it motivate performance excellence. All right. Next question. So what inspired U.S. Congress to create a National Quality Award? Here are the 4 possible answers. Came at the request of Detroit's big 3 automobile manufacturers. It was a result of Dr. Deming and Duran presenting to Congress. It was the outcome of an NBC white paper, or it started as a new Olympic event. 6 seconds to go. All right. And let's see how the people responded. So the correct answer is this NBC white paper. It was a special television event that asked, essentially the title of it is, if Japan can, why can't we? Think back, maybe it's before your time, but back in the 1980s was when Japan was really taking off in their industrial comeback. And their automotive market was really taking our big 3 automobile manufacturers lunch. I mean, they were coming in with these smaller, funny looking cars, but yet they hit something amongst the consumers that created a big stir, and our big 3 automobile manufacturers were losing a lot of market share to the Japanese manufacturers. And that's just one example of how Japan was improving. And a lot of it, how Japan got its start, is because Deming and Duran actually went to Japan following World War II and helped to get their industry back up. And they taught leaders and the workforce about how to use statistics and quality methods to reduce scrap and rework, to get more 100% on time in full. So it was because of Duran and Deming, but their presentations to the Japanese companies. They also presented to our U.S. companies, but the U.S. at that point, they were kind of fat, dumb, and happy, sitting on their profits and their revenue and market share. It was only until the big 3 automobile manufacturers started losing significant share that the U.S. industry started to take note. So who's the leader so far? Well, looks like Curtis has got 2,000 points. Whoever guessed 688 has 1833. Dave is in third place, but we still have a couple questions to go. Next question. So what organizations manage and administer this U.S. National Baldrige Program? Choices are the U.S. Department of Commerce, NIST, ASQ, the Baldrige Foundation, or all of the above. Should have that Jeopardy music playing in the background. All right, time is up. I had 14 people respond. So the correct answer was all of the above. Where most people missed out is they didn't attribute ASQ as having a role in the Baldrige Framework and the administering of it. Actually, that is, the ASQ is one of the principal components or partners along with NIST. Now, the entire program is funded out of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And those funds then are disseminated to NIST, who actually takes care and runs the Baldrige program as far as every 2 years, they update it with some of the newest best practices from role model companies. So it's a very much a living document that just like ISO updates its standards every 5 years, or at least it reviews it every 5 years for update or not. The U.S. Department of Commerce and NIST, they look at updating the Baldrige criteria, every 2 years. And then ASQ is involved. Well, ASQ used to have a much stronger role, but then as a result of refinancing, 3-4 years ago, due to Congress reducing some of the funding, Baldrige almost died. As part of the tax cuts. I'm not going to blame any one administration, but it wasn't that long ago when they were seriously looking at maybe continuing the Baldrige program, but making it more privately owned, or so some other organization, not the government, would be responsible for funding it. But then as more and more role model companies came forth and expressed their resolve to keep the program running, and it should really be under the the leadership of the U.S. Department of Commerce, then the funding started to come back in. Now ASQ is still involved because ASQ is the principal administrator of, when you order a booklet or the framework, you're going to receive it from ASQ. So kind of a similar role that ASQ has with the ISO standards. ISO is run by the ISO organization, but ASQ really partners to do all the printing, publishing, and distribution of the standards. And then the Baldrige Foundation, well, that's who we are a part of. So we are the people who actually get out and... Pardon? So the correct answer is all of the above. So what are the major benefits of the Baldrige? A leading edge proven model for long-term success, presidential and Department of Commerce recognition, unique insights related to your performance as compared to your competition, helps enhance your brand, provides a return on investment with improved results and societal contributions, or all of the above. All right, take a look at the answers. So again, all of the above is the correct answer. Maybe this was a little bit of a gimme, especially following the previous question. But yes, all of the above are benefits of pursuing performance excellence. Now, if you can pursue excellence at the state level and then go on to the national level, or just this year for the first time, the National Baldrige Administration changed the model, so you could actually skip over having going through the state programs, if your organization is already perceived as a role model within your industry by some recognized industry forum collaboration. There are some industries that have a consortium that identify best practices. So if your organization holds that type of recognition, you can skip going through the state programs and just apply immediately directly to the national. This is the first year. This was like the pilot. So the national now has kind of changed its focus. It's more focused on looking for those role model companies than focusing on how well are organizations adopting these key best practices identified in the framework. So in a way, the national model is now tipped upside down, where it's looking at the results. And if you have a minimum score to get selected for a site visit, then the national Baldrige examiners will come visit your organization. And at that point, they'll be looking to see, okay, now do you have systematic processes that have been deployed and universally systematized in your organization? Can you demonstrate that your achievement and your designation as a role model within your industry, can you demonstrate that that was achieved because of sustained performance, or was it just a one-off? Okay, you hit the ball out of the ballpark this year, but that doesn't mean that you really have systematic processes that will guarantee that type of success moving forward. So whereas the state program, if you come through any of the state programs, we work with organizations to first look at what are your key processes. You're going to tell us what your key processes are. And then we're going to look to see, well, how well have you deployed those? How effective are they in helping you to achieve your mission and vision? And if you have some perceived opportunities for improvement, well, that's where we would now bring you back in and look at adopting some of these best practices. But all of these types of benefits can come in at the national level. And the final question, probably already gave away the answer to this one. So how do organizations apply for the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award? Is it through recognition at the state level? Is it by being perceived as a recognized role model within your industry group? Or could it be through either path? Forgot I had this question in there, so kind of a gimme, I think. Okay, so clock has run out. The correct answer today is you can apply for the national award through either approach. You can still go through the state regional alliance organizations such as SWAY, or if you are already recognized within your industry, you can just directly apply. Of course, then the examiners are going to look at your application. They're going to verify, obviously, that you are indeed recognized within your industry. And if you get enough points based on your results to warrant a site visit, then those examiners will come and they'll judge the effectiveness of your processes to be able to sustain that level of performance. Whereas if you go through the state level, it's more stepwise progression. Many of the state and regional organizations, they have a 4 or 5 level of recognition. Within SWAY, we have 4 levels as you improve along the time frame. And then we also have an award for leadership. So we have 5 reward recognitions, but it's 4 levels of organizational performance, and then 1 award is for leadership. So, well, very good. Thank you for participating. My plan is to send, now who is guest 131? You can either unmute and let me know, or you can put the information in the chat. So if you let me know who you are, Curtis Pogue, I have Dave somebody, and guest 131, if you can provide your name and email, I will send you each a copy of the Baldrige Framework and a copy of what's called the Baldrige Builder. The Baldrige Builder is a much beefy, and the distinction is this framework is very comprehensive. It includes all levels of questions. Within the Baldrige Framework, we have what are called basic questions, overall level questions, and then multiples questions. When you are answering questions at the multiples level, you are well on your way towards achieving excellence. But if you're just getting started, that framework is probably much too much to chew on and to take into bite-sized pieces. Whenever an organization is considering using Baldrige, this is what we would recommend, the Baldrige Builder. And both of these can be downloaded. The Builder is free. Just go out to the NIST website, and I'll have the address and follow-up slides. You can download this for free as a PDF. You can order this, and the booklets will come to you at a cost, nominal cost. So, all right. Well, thank you for participating. So continuing on with the presentation. So yes, Baldrige was established in 1987. It reflects the leading edge of validated, quote unquote, the role model organization management practices. And its whole purpose, its mission is to improve the competitiveness and performance of U.S. organizations for the benefit of all U.S. residents. And what initiated all of this is a video that was aired by NBC News called "If Japan Can, Why Can't We?" And you can find, here's the link to the YouTube. It's the complete length. It's an hour and 16 minutes. That entire white paper that was presented back in 1980. So the Baldrige Quality Award was established by Congress. It was named after the U.S. Department of Commerce chair. His name is Malcolm Baldrige. And the organizations, again, that are involved with managing and administrating this award includes the Commerce Department, NIST, Baldrige Foundation, and ASQ. And since this award was first designed back in 1987, 134 awards have been presented to 124 organizations. So there are like 10 organizations who have won this award more than one time. And these 124 organizations come from all sectors of the economy. Manufacturing, most definitely, but healthcare, education, institutions, service industries, nonprofits, and small businesses are all represented in the winning circle of the national award. So Baldrige is really an integrated approach to organizational performance. And the results will deliver ever-improving value to customers, stakeholders, and contribute to your organization's sustainability over time. The Baldrige criteria, as I mentioned before, although it was first adopted in 1988, it has undergone 4 major revisions, and every 2 years it undergoes some type of minor revision. The most recent revision, actually it was an addition to the criteria, came in 2023, just coming out of COVID, which wreaked havoc on many global supply chains, that 2 new criteria were added to the Baldrige Framework in 2023. One is a focus on DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion, and another being resiliency. So how do you build resiliency into your supply chain to prevent similar catastrophes happening from that we witness as a result of the COVID pandemic? And what's been the impact organizations who do pursue performance excellence? Well, Right now, at a national level, the return on investment is 820 to 1. So for every dollar you invest in performing excellence, you will get at least $820 back. That's a pretty good, and that's better than the stock market. And again, there are 124 winners that serve as role models. And because they have that distinction, they share everything about their organization that allows them to have this recognition as a role model. So they share their application, they share their organizational profile, they share their best practices, and they willingly share this because they want to help the entire US or what other country is adopting Baldrige. They want to help the entire country to get better. So the framework, and I'll go into a little more detail about the framework itself. It's built on core values. There are criteria for excellence, and then there's a unique scoring system. I'm going to kind of go through these remaining slides rather fast, but that gives you a feel for the Baldrige framework. And for those of you who are familiar with ISO, you'll now have something to compare one-on-one. So the core values are
Bob?
listed in the, yes, go ahead.
It looks like we have a raised hand.
Okay.
Demetrius just raised a hand. Demetrius, do you have a question, or was that intentional?
Oh, sorry, no, that was not intentional.
Okay, just wanted to
Okay.
make sure.
So within the Baldrige framework, we've got these core values that are underlying everything, and they all bring a systems perspective, systems approach. And then they're surrounded by the different categories of key processes. So every organization, whether documented or not, they do have a process for leadership and leadership engagement. You know, how do they build a pool of ready now or ready in future leadership? How do they sustain their performance activities? Then there's a category around just operational effectiveness. And then workforce. How do you engage the workforce to be able to deliver on your mission and vision? Customer focus, obvious. How do you listen to your customers? And how do you, beyond listening, how do you engage your customers to be a part of your organization and to have loyalty and recommend, you know, that net promoter score? You get that word of mouth advertising to promote your business, your operations. And how do you know when you're satisfying your customers? Then this whole piece around measuring, analyzing the data, and using that data to build knowledge within your organization, to become a learning organization, or strategic planning and leadership kind of go hand in hand. And then, so those are focused on the key processes. Then we come in and say, well, how effective are these processes in delivering the results that you tell us are important? So in this organizational profile that every applicant must complete, they're going to tell us what are the key processes and what are the key results to their organization. What do they look for? What are their most important numbers? Okay. And what are the comparisons that they're using to help continued and to motivate greater performance? So we're going to focus on improvements by looking at, you know, are your processes consistently effective? Do they address the needs of your organization? How good are your results? And how do you know? Okay, you've got a number, and but how do you know if you're any good? And then to become a learning organization, it's all about, are you getting better at getting better? Because it's all about continuous improvement and striving for excellence. So how do you know that you're any good today, but how are you getting better at getting better is a key piece of the sustainable performance excellence. So there is this framework has been customized for 3 different industry groups or sectors. You've got the Blue Book, which covers basically everybody in business, whether it's small business, large business, nonprofits. But then we also have a framework that's focused on education and one that's focused on healthcare. they all have the same or similar questions, but the focus is a little different. If you look below, the customers of the business framework are your consumers, and that focuses on what are your products and services, how do you design those products and services, and then how do you measure your results. The education focuses on what are your educational programs, how do you design those programs, and then what are the results from the student perspective, student success, and how well are you maintaining your budget. Or healthcare, it's obvious the instead of for your customers, it's going to talk about your patients. So your customer base are patients and families. It's going to focus on your healthcare services, but again, part of it is how do you design those services and processes, and then what are your results that you measure your performance. And just recently, like within the last 2 years, Baldrige has come out with a new framework focused specifically at communities, organizational communities like cities, towns. It could even be a department or a branch of your community, maybe the library system, or it's your emergency departments, your fire and police and first alert. So it can narrow it down to that level, or it takes a broader look at, as a community, how are we delivering exceptional service to our community, to the people who live and work in our community. So there is a new framework built around that. It's so new that although we have a framework, it's not yet part of the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. So many communities, they may use this as a structure because it specifically speaks to them. It talks about quality of life and service and budgetary results, and it's focused on being a livable community and how do you bring quality to life. But if you're really focused on national recognition, it's not quite there yet because there's not a category of recognition at the national level. But there is within the community level. Right now, there are 29 communities scattered across the U.S. who are part of this community of excellence, or it's a community of practice of communities. And so they get together and they share challenges, best practices. They have their own conference. They have a part of the Baldrige Fall Conference. Day 1 is focused on COE. That's where communities come in. And day 2 is for everybody else, all the people who use this framework. But just to make people aware that there is now a community of framework. It's still quite new. Most communities who are pursuing excellence are using this Baldrige Excellence Framework for businesses and nonprofits. But the advantage of the communities of excellence, it changes the language to speak more toward a city, a public service. So the verbiage is slightly modified to fit more with a community. And the way they sway, we serve both. So if we have communities that want to go through the COE, we can help there. If you're a community and you want to use the traditional model because it's been around longer, it's more firmly established, there's an established state program for recognition to help you along your journey. Many communities are still choosing to use the traditional framework. But I'm just making you aware that both models exist. So the criteria then really helps for the basis of self-assessments. That's where you start. Whether you start with this Baldrige Builder, or if you're really, really brand new to this whole performance excellence thing and you just want to get your leadership on board, there are 2 free self-assessment questionnaires that you can download from NIST. One is called Are We Making Progress? It's just like a short questionnaire questions, but they're selected questions right out of the Baldrige Builder. So it's a good way to get started. It helps to motivate interest into pursuing a more formal approach. And there's even a questionnaire specifically for leaders. And that one's called Are We Making Progress as Leaders? These are both free. They're PDFs that you can download from the NIST site. So the Baldrige Framework, again, looking at it as a model, it starts with our core values and concepts. And then the key pieces start with, if you're going to pursue a Baldrige journey, the first thing you have to develop is your organizational profile. This is like a 5-page document where you describe who you are, what are your products and services, who are your customers, who's your competition, what are your strategic strengths, but where are your opportunities? Where are your strategic challenges? And then once you've identified your challenges, then you can come through the other categories within the Baldrige framework, and you can start answering the questions that will help lead you towards a focus on excellence, as opposed to just compliance. So there's the leadership triad, the leadership, strategic planning, and recognizing, well, who are my customers? How do we listen to them? And maybe as a corollary, who aren't our customers and what does our competition deliver that we don't? So a way of tying all that together. And then the other triad is more focused on results. So as a result of this planning, strategizing, focus on what customers want and need, then you can start to design your workforce and your operations, and you're going to monitor the results. And underlying all that, you're going to be measuring your most important numbers. You're going to be tracking them. Are you improving over time? And at what rate is your improvement? So to get started in this whole journey, you're going to develop your own organizational profile. And whether you use any of these three or the community of excellence, they all start with first documenting your profile. And the profile is basically these set of questions. So there's item 1, describe your organization. What are your products and services? What's your mission and vision? What are your key values? Describe your workforce. Do you have multiple shifts? Do you have, what's the educational level? Can you segment your workforce by that? How do you improve your workforce to be able to respond to changes you expect to experience, whether that's in building your capability of your workforce, maybe you have to add capacity. So describe your workforce and what's your profile? What are some of your major assets? Do you have one facility or multiple facilities? What's the regulatory environment that you are operating under? And then what are your important organizational relationships? Again, speaking to your leadership structure. Is it hierarchical or do you have some other design? What's your governance system? How do senior leaders lead? Who are your customers and key stakeholders? Who are your key suppliers, partners, and collaborators? What role do they play and how do you measure them? How do you improve their performance? And along the way, how do they help you contribute to implementing any innovations in your organization? So that's the part 1 of your org description. And so if you think about it, it's kind of answering the questions from this value discipline model that Tracy published. This was a very popular concept back in the 1990s, where Tracy and Wiersma kind of identified and categorized organizations in 3 different axes. Similarly, they looked at it as, well, how do you define your organization? What's important to you? Are you a product innovator? So it's very important for you to be constantly innovating, coming out with new, big, and better, kind of like Apple, right? Their whole purpose, their whole why is around being a product leader. They're going to push the envelope of technology and deliver new consumables to their audience. Or is your business model more on the operational excellence side? Common popular example is, a fast food restaurant, McDonald's. They want to be operationally excellent, deliver the same meal wherever you go for the lowest cost. Or are you more built on customer intimacy? It's your organization is going to win in the marketplace because of your customer intimacy. So you're focused all on identifying who are your target audience. Have you journey mapped your customers coming in? Are you providing the best overall solution to your customers? Is that your discipline? So kind of think of defining your organization along those lines. Then part 2 is around your defining the environment that your organization operates in. Who are your competitors? What are their relative positions compared to you? How are they changing? What, again, is your comparative data? And then what are your key strategies, your threats, advantages, opportunities? And then what is your performance improvement system? How are you organizationally improving? Have you adopted Lean? Are you using Six Sigma? Are you using something else? How do you improve the performance of your systems and processes? And similarly, you can think of Michael Porter's 5 threats model. If you look at threats to your business, they can come from new entrants into the marketplace, come from suppliers who are now collaborating and gaining more influence. Maybe the buyers themselves are having more to say. They're helping to drive your business. Threat of substitutions, new entrants, new players coming into the marketplace. So where are the threats to your organization coming from? So that's what the whole purpose of a profile is. And then once you put that together, you can start this assessments of how effectively have we deployed our key processes in all of our different functional silos. Okay, so how well are we doing things? But then once you got that profile built, there are six different process categories that the Baldrige has questions about that can help you improve your performance excellence. And then the final category is focused on your results. And scoring is achieved, the maximum score any organization could get, and this comes from the national model, is 1,000 points. No one has ever achieved 1,000 points. You get a site visit if you score more than 600. Okay, so that's the rigor and the challenge. If you do well, you're scoring 500 to 600, you're well on your way to becoming recognized as a role model in some facet of your business. Maybe your leadership is number 1, or for another organization, maybe it's how you manage your workforce. So you can have strengths in one or more areas, but you're going to have opportunities in other areas. And then the structure looks much like you saw in the organizational profile, where category 3 is customers. And then there's 2 items. 3.1 is around how do you listen to your customers? It's around expectations of customers. And 3.2 would be a customer engagement. So how do you take that next step, and how do you engage customers to be closely connected to your organization? So when we evaluate your processes and your systems, we use a couple different models. 2 terms you might hear as you're pursuing the Baldrige Framework. One is called ADLI, A-D-L-I. Basically, if you look at any process, we're asking these 4 questions. How do you accomplish that process? What's the approach you use? Then we look at how consistently is that approach deployed? So for organizations or maybe functional groups within your organization, they're sharing the same process. Well, are they doing it similar? Are they doing it the same? How well deployed is it? If you have multiple crews, how well do the 3 or 4 crews deploy that same approach? And then a higher level would be learning. So do you have a systematic, intentional evaluation of your processes? And does that evaluation lead to improvements? And then finally is integrate. How do you integrate your processes to make sure that they have the ability to deliver to your vision? ADLI is how we judge and evaluate the effectiveness of your processes. And then there's one around the results area, where we're looking for, what is your current level of performance? What's the level? Is it good? Is it improving? Is it going the opposite way that you intend? So we're looking at the levels and the trends. Remember, you have to have at least 3 data points to make a trend. So if you're just getting started, you probably don't have trend analysis yet, but you'll have levels of performance. Then we look at, well, what are your comparisons? And are your comparisons relevant to your organizational profile, to what your stated vision and mission are? And then we look at integration. How are you tracking those important results? So we talk about results. And so what we're looking for, do you segment your data? And do you have some arrows showing which way is improvement? Is bigger better or smaller better? And then what are your comparisons? Are you comparing to national average, your industry average, or are you comparing yourself to best in class, whatever segment of the economy that may come from? So maybe you're using a top performer metric or the top 10%. So those are just some examples of how we look at your results to see if they're delivering on your desired future state. So you want to measure what's important. I'm already running short of time here, so but this gets into this video, which I was going to share, also comes from the Moneyball, but it talks about data analytics and getting the right data and analyzing the data to be able to drive improvement. I'm going to have to skip over that video. And then, so who are we, Sway? Again, I explained at the very first slide that we are very similar to ASQ, but we focus on performance excellence. Here's our vision and our mission. Our values, our purpose is to empower organizations and communities to improve their results and to contribute to society. These are our key services. We train. Primary of that is we provide examiner training. We offer consultation. We help coach in the development of your profile, helping you to write an application. We assess your performance using the Baldrige Framework. And we recognize at 4 or 5 different levels of achievement to help motivate even greater performance. So these are the 4 steps that we have within Sway to Excellence. Typically, an organization will come into us at level 1. At this level, all you need to do is write a profile, which is a maximum of 5 pages. You have to answer 37 questions, and this helps get you started on this journey towards excellence. And then as you get better and better, the application has you delving into more and more questions or requirements to achieve these role model comparisons. So why am I approaching you here with an ASQ is really to help advocate for you to become a Baldrige Examiner. And we have a special offer for anybody who's interested. Now, but before I go into that, we have to speak about the elephant in the room, right? Performance excellence has really got to be driven by senior management. They have the primary responsibility because this is an organizational level improvement, not something you can do within a department, not something you can do within a functional silo. So the question is, well, if my leaders have to lead it, how am I, as the quality professional, going to have any impact? I can't make my organization pursue excellence, and that's true, but by becoming trained in the framework, you now develop your own professional skills where you can be more of a key hub or an influencer without the position of power, but you can have that key influence to help the quality manager become more effective and satisfying initiatives, projects, and processes. And then perhaps it'll motivate into leading to bigger and better things for the entire organization. So the benefits of becoming an examiner, you'll be trained in the international acclaimed Baldrige Framework. You will have expanded your networking and benchmarking opportunities to other organizations who are pursuing excellence. You're going to learn about best practices. You're going to get hands-on experience that will help you to evaluate organizations who have applied. And then you can take that learning back to your organization. And you can use that to improve operations in your organization. And of course, you earn recertification units. Now, the only reason I put this ASQ certified auditor is not to say you have to be an auditor before you can be an examiner. That's not true at all. You don't have to have any ASQ professional accreditation to pursue being an examiner for the Baldrige. But we have found through experience that if you are trained as an auditor, you already have a lot of the skills that are necessary to be an effective examiner. But again, as I said earlier, an assessment examiner has an entirely different focus than an ISO or internal auditor. So what are these opportunities? Well, if you want to be an examiner and you want to participate on a team, this is what you're looking at as to the commitment. Okay, it's 40 hours plus just of training and preparation. And that has value just of itself. If all you wanted to do was learn about the Baldrige, so you can take that back and practice it in your organization, wherever you are, this training will provide that first step. It will prepare you. You will get a copy of the framework. You'll be able to know how to use the framework and ask those valid questions. Now, if you want to pursue it further and actually be a part of an assessment team, well, now here's where the added experience comes in and a professional enhancement of your career, because it's a multiple step. First, you will be assigned to a team that's going to assess an organization that has applied for the state level Performance Excellence Award. So you're going to start out by being assigned to a team. Within that team, you're going to be assigned to 1 or 2 categories, not all 7, just 1, at most maybe 2 categories. And you're going to review the document, the application from that applicant against the criteria that's in that category. Then once you've done that, the entire team is going to get together. And this is where all the different individuals are going to caucus about, well, typically we'll have 2 or 3 examiners assigned to each category. So those 2 or 3 will come together and develop a consensus. And then the entire team will come together and develop a consensus report, which then prepares the team to go on site to visit the client. So we have the independent and consensus review. Well, we're essentially looking for strengths and opportunities based on what the applicant wrote, okay? But for the applicant, they're as new to the writing of the application as we are to the examining. So they may not write the best application. So we want to go on site to validate what we saw in the application. We may have scored the applicant low in one area just because of what they did not include in the application. But by going on site, we now have a targeted list of areas we want to go in and look at based on the paper review, the application review. And we're going to go in, well, do they truly have the systems in place to warrant this higher score? And conversely, we may learn that, wow, something they didn't even write about or didn't give themselves credit for really helps notch up their score in this other category. So that's the whole purpose of the site visit, is to actually see firsthand how are they executing on their key processes and delivering, because it's very hard to judge deployment of a practice through reading about it. You really have to go be there, and you get to interview people from all 3 crews, let's say, or all 3 shifts, or if they have multiple facilities, we'll go in and sample the different facilities. So we can get a much better understanding of how effectively was this practice deployed. So the total commitment then is around 160 hours. But that occurs over like a 3-4 month period of time. And wrapping up, so how do you get involved? If you're interested, our next round of examiner training is coming up September 16th, 17th, and 18th. It'll be virtual, so all the training will be done via Zoom. You can if you're interested, you can register through this link, or you can go directly to our website and you'll find it there. The fee is $750 for this 2.5 days. This is a bargain basement fee, because if you're to look out and see what some of our other peer Baldrige organizations, they're charging up to $1,200 for the same training, the same material. we are offering it at this price because we really are serious about building awareness of the Baldrige. And if we can get more people examined and participating, we can help maybe foster and motivate excitement back in their own organization. And if you do want to participate on a team, and of course, assuming we have enough applicants to warrant some number of teams, you get assigned to a team. We also deliver free of any additional charge, just-in-time refresher training. So you get the basic training, and you will also get this refresher training, all for that one price of $750. So that is a very deep discounted price. If you're interested, if you can encourage your manager or whoever pays the bill to agree to sign you up to become an examiner, you will learn a lot. You will be much more effective in your role as a quality professional. And again, you'll bring back a lot of that shared experiences and new knowledge into your organization. So that's all I want to say about my presentation. I took more time than I had wanted to, but I knew we had moved the network and Q&A to after the presentation, and this is one reason why we did that. So if presentations did run a little over, we will still have time to answer any questions before moving into the remaining business phase. So if you're interested, you can either register online, you can give me a call, you can send me an email. And if you want to join our mailing list to learn more about the Baldrige, and we have case studies, we'll have information from companies that have won it in our 3-state area. If you want to get on our mailing list, this is the link below. And I will make this presentation available. It'll be posted to my ASQ by the end of the week. So all this information will be presented to you. So wrapping up, one more slide. I promise I'm done. Hillary had made mention of a class that we, ASQ, is offering. It's used to be called the exam prep class, although ASQ has changed it to the body of knowledge class. It's going to be offered in September through early December, every Thursday from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. And it will prepare you to be able to take and pass the Certified Quality Engineer exam, which is coming up in October. So the training will be more or less just in time as you need it to prepare to take the CQE exam. If you're interested, if that's part of your professional development plan, is to become a CQE, this would be a perfect opportunity for you. The fee is $400 if you're an ASQ or SWAY member. Materials are extra. So there's a primer and a solutions text plus shipping and handling. Of course, the fee itself is extra because the exam is administered by ASQ, Mother ASQ. The training is delivered by the section. So your total cost is just over $1,000, or maybe just under $1,000 if you're an ASQ member. That includes everything, the materials, the exam. So if you're interested, we have the information up on our My ASQ site, which gives you the link to our event registration, which is on Member Planet app. So here's a link to that. Again, the training starts in September. It'll be every Thursday from 3 to 6 and delivered via Zoom. So that's what I had. Thank you for your attention. Sorry for going over. Does anybody have any questions?
Actually, Bob, since we just have 10 minutes left, and I still have the business portion of the meeting, if you have questions, could you actually email Bob with them
Sure. Yeah,
personally?
that'll work.
I just want to be cognizant of everybody's time and not hold you over on a Thursday evening with some business stuff. And then we also had a couple of comments during the meeting. Someone was asking if you could put the links from NIST into the chat.
Oh, sure.
And then one of our winners, Dave, is actually on the senior leadership team, and he was saying that you can defer his prize to the, or I think he came out first or somewhere in there, but you can move the winners down as necessary in order to omit him as a prize winner.
Okay. All right.
He just wanted to participate.
Well, again, I sincerely apologize for going over. I had a lot to talk about, but hopefully it was something worthwhile and of benefit to you. And if you have any questions, I look forward to your follow-up.
All right, awesome. Thank you. I thought it was a great presentation. It was full of very relevant information that I think many of us can put to good use. So
Good. Thank you.
Let me see. So I will go ahead and bring back, whoops, my slides. Share screen. Okay. Let's see from beginning. Okay, we have just a few announcements this evening. Some are regarding ASQ as a society, and then of course some are regarding ASQ as a Phoenix section. Many of these are going to be about upcoming training that we have both as a society and as a Phoenix section. So upcoming ASQ events include the Quality Impact Forum on Sustainability. That will be July 31st of this year. And then we have the Quality Innovation Summit coming up October 8th through 10th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they will be offering that as a hybrid option. And then the Women in Quality Symposium is December 5th, and that is completely virtual. And then 2025 Lean and Six Sigma Conference will be held February 23rd through 25th, 2025. And then of course, next year's World Conference on Quality and Improvement will be held May 4th through 7th in Denver, Colorado. So since that one is a little bit closer to us, as was San Diego, hopefully we'll have a few more people from the Phoenix section being able to attend. And these are your 2024 ASQ Phoenix section officers. You have myself, Hillary Werner, who is currently serving as section chair. And then we have David Gibson, who is our secretary, and Amrish Patel, who is our current treasurer. We are currently looking for volunteers, and it's my understanding that these recently went up on the volunteer hub in my ASQ. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about these positions, you can find information about them there. We do have an on-site arrangements coordinator. This person is responsible for coordinating in-person events the day of the event. So if we do go back to in-person meetings, this person would be responsible for registering people for that meeting on site. They'd be responsible for refreshments. They'd be responsible for making sure that the room is set up, those types of things. And they'd also be responsible for any other networking events that we plan as well. And then we have an offsite arrangements coordinator. This person is responsible for the contracts with the venues where we hold those on-site meetings. So they would just be responsible for anything that's related to planning of those meetings previous to the day of the event. We're looking for a chair-elect. We're looking for someone to fill my shoes next year as the Phoenix chair. And the sooner we get this person into the position of chair-elect, the more time they will have to actually learn the role of the chair prior to taking over the role in 2025. We're also looking for a programs chair. I'm currently filling this role. This person is responsible for finding programs for our monthly meetings. So for instance, the program that Bob delivered tonight and the one that's being delivered next month, this person will be responsible for finding those people. We're also looking for a voice of the customer chair. Bob is currently filling this role, so please be on the lookout for your RU certificate from him this evening after the meeting. It'll probably be sent to you within the next week or so, so give it just a little bit of time. But this person is responsible for sending out the survey after the meeting is over, and then collecting all of that information and aggregating it in a formal report so that we as a senior leadership team can kind of know where we need to go. We can figure out our direction based on the feedback that we get from you. They're also responsible for, again, sending out those certificates after the meetings are over, and then sending certificates to anybody that happens to watch recorded sessions online. And then we're also looking for a LinkedIn manager. If you are someone that is on social media quite a bit, this might be the position for you. We like to post our upcoming events, as well as networking opportunities and community outreach opportunities. And if you're interested in any of these, you can send an email to ASQ Phoenix at sections.asq.org. And this is just a snapshot of your Phoenix section leadership committee this year. We are again looking for presenters for our monthly program meetings. If this is something that interests you, please respond to our survey and provide us with your information, what you would like to speak on, what your areas of expertise are, as well as your contact information. And presentations can be on soft skills or technical skills related to quality in any industry. Presentations should be about an hour in length. Sometimes they go a little bit longer, sometimes they go a little bit shorter, and that's just fine. And you can email me directly at hwerner@memberleader.asq.org or respond to that survey that I mentioned previously if you are interested in presenting at one of our upcoming monthly meetings. All right, Chuck, are you still on the call?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, do you want to give a short spiel about the upcoming training for Greenbelt Toolbox?
Yeah, this is the second part of the training that's basically expanding on the FMEA, the 5th edition. And these are basic skill sets that everybody involved in quality should be aware of. You don't use every one of these every day, but it helps to organize people when they're trying to accomplish stuff. So I'm going to cover a lot of ground in a short period of time. But if you're not familiar with every one of these, you're missing out on some handy skill sets that could be very useful to you. I won't get into too terrible much depth in the quality function deployment, but the other four I will get into a lot of depth, and they will be very, very useful to you. The reason why not to use QFD is because people have figured out that if you do it complete all 5 houses, it's takes a long time and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. But I will talk about how to do a blitz QFD. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Awesome. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it. And if you are interested in this upcoming training session, you can actually find more information about it on the Phoenix Sections website. And there will be a registration link there as well under the Events tab. All right, we'll kind of just gloss over the slide really quickly because Bob mentioned it in his presentation. The ASQ Phoenix section has organized a certified quality engineer body of knowledge training to be held this fall. It will be delivered by QualityBob Mitchell. It'll be September 5th through December 5th, once a week from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Phoenix time, total of 12 sessions. And I believe he already went over the pricing as well. So there will be more information on this particular training, again, under the events tab, under the Phoenix section website on my ASQ too. So if you are interested, that would be a great place to go for more information. And then I think Bob also mentioned this, the Sway Taco Tuesday webinar series. The next one is coming up on August 13th. Which is going to be about translating voice of the customer in product and process requirements. And these are free webinars. So if you are interested, I encourage you to attend. Upcoming networking events in 2024, we are still working on a wine tasting for you. We are narrowing down the possible locations, and I believe we've got it down to just a few that we're looking at this point. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we will have the details out to you regarding that event. You can be on the lookout for event invitations via Constant Contact, as well as on our My ASQ website under the events tab for the Phoenix section. And again, that address for Phoenix section is www.asqphoenix.org. We're still trying to get this up and running, a member spotlight in order to encourage networking during these post-COVID times, as we try to bring back all of our in-person events. If you are interested in the member spotlight, we would be asking you several questions about what you do, how you got to where you are in your career. We'll ask you about your hobbies, and then we'll kind of put all of that together into an article for our monthly newsletter. What I might do is I might start with some of our section leadership team, and then move on from there to some of our membership, just so members kind of have an idea of what I intend to do with this particular project. But if you are interested in this, please don't hesitate to contact me at the email address below. We have a 2024 program attendance drawing for a section branded travel mug, a travel tumbler. In order to be eligible for the drawing, you must be a Phoenix section member and you must attend the monthly program. So anyone that attends the monthly program is entered into a drawing for this tumbler. And we did have a winner last month, Josh D. Congratulations. I'm glad to hear that you got your tumbler and I hope you're enjoying it. You will be eligible just for one tumbler each year. So even if you attend every meeting and you won in January, you won't be eligible again until the following year. All right, this is kind of the formal document that we come up with after receiving your feedback from those surveys. So last month, the month of June, we had 52 people attend the monthly program meeting, and we had a 31% response rate to our survey. What we found out is that overall, people enjoyed listening to our speaker and the content that they shared. The networking was also decent last month. We had either neutral or good feedback regarding that. And then our overall satisfaction, we had one person say that they were extremely dissatisfied, but everyone else was extremely satisfied or moderately satisfied. So we will definitely take that. And then our net promoter score was also very good. So we had a good month last month. Thank you again to those of you that did end up filling out that survey and sending it back to us. It really helps us, as I mentioned previously, in trying to figure out where to steer the section moving forward and what types of things you would like us to bring to the table in order to enhance your member satisfaction. All right, just an overview of the new MyASQ that launched in May of 2023. Here is that events tab on the Phoenix section's webpage. This is where you'll find upcoming section events, including conferences and monthly programs, as well as those trainings that I mentioned previously. Under the discussion tab, this is where you will find our job board, which is updated weekly with new jobs. So if you are currently in the market yourself for a new position or you know of somebody, this is where you might want to point them. Our library tab is where we have previous program recordings. So you can watch these recordings for RUs and actually send an email to Bob Mitchell for an RU certificate. Under the library is where you'll find newsletters, handouts, presentations, and mini papers. And this is just a quick little plug for ASQ professional membership versus ASQ senior membership. As an ASQ professional member, you will have access to a professional networking within a global organization. You'll get discounts on training programs and events that are provided by ASQ, either as a society or within your section. And what I've noticed is that if you attend one ASQ society conference each year, the discounts that you receive as a member will pay for the membership itself. So it's totally worth it. You'll have access to online and published content. You'll have updates on professional news and issues for current best practices and innovative emerging trends. And you'll also get attendance at Phoenix section networking events. If you upgrade to senior membership, it is the same price as your professional membership, but you will have additional benefits. You will have the option of either receiving one additional journal or magazine of your choice, or joining a second section of your choice, geographical section of your choice. Criteria for senior membership includes ASQ, being an ASQ member in good standing for 1 year, as well as 10 years of professional experience. And you need to have at least one of the following in addition to those first 2 criteria. You need to have conducted quality-related work for at least 2 years, have taught quality-related classes at a college for 2 years, have been a senior member of another comparable organization, or you need to currently hold an ASQ certification that requires recertification. Again, this is completely free for this upgrade. You will need to wait to apply for senior membership at your next renewal date. They no longer accept applications for senior membership within the year of your membership. It does need to be on your renewal date. But for additional information on senior membership, you can visit the website at the bottom of the screen. All right, this is just another reminder to please fill out your meeting evaluation surveys. With your survey link will come your RU certificate. And I just want to remind you all that ASQ has changed its policy currently regarding the number of RUs you will receive for attending section program meetings. This year, they will continue offering 0.5 RUs for each program meeting that you attend, but this is going to change in 2025. So in 2025, the RUs you receive for attending these program meetings will go from 0.5 RUs to 0.2 RUs. So it'll be 1 RU per hour. So you may want, if you're up for recertification soon, you might want to attend as many of the program meetings this year as you can and watch as many of those recordings that are worth 0.5 RUs as you can now prior to next year. Let me see. So we have coming up on August 8th, which is next month, we will have a presentation being delivered by John Choate, another one of our senior leadership team members, and he is going to be discussing Quality 4.0 and AI, unlocking new levels of product excellence and customer satisfaction. So that will be another presentation that you will not want to miss. I assure you, it will be just as interesting as tonight's presentation. I'm getting tongue-tied, I'm sorry, as tonight's presentation was. All right, so if you are into social media, you can visit the ASQ Phoenix section on social media. We do have a Facebook account, a LinkedIn account, an X account, formerly known as Twitter, an Instagram account, and a YouTube account. So if you have any social media accounts of your own, you can visit us on any one of those platforms. All right, are there any final thoughts, comments, or questions before we conclude this evening? Let me just check the chat really quick here. Let's see. So, let's see. Bob had mentioned that his slide deck will be posted to ASQ Phoenix, my ASQ community site later tonight, and that RU certificates will be emailed to the account you registered with to log into Zoom tonight. So if you're looking for those RU certificates, please be cognizant that they will be sent to whatever email you registered with for this meeting. All right. Well, that concludes the meeting for this evening. Thank you all for hanging on with me as we went fairly quickly through this business meeting. I appreciate each one of you, and I hope that you will consider attending next month. Until then, be safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you again soon.
Night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.